This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you by Insightful Accountants Be Insightful membership program. Get 9 expert-led training tracks, over 30 CPE hours a year, hands-on workshops, and year-round premium content to grow your skills and your practice. Learn more at blog.insightfulaccountant.com. Just click the premium member content button.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart, and I'm the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast, publisher of Insightful Accountant. My guest today is Samantha or Sam. Which one do you prefer, Samantha or Sam?
Sam.
All right. Sam Hallburn from the wilds of Montana. Are you back in Montana?
Not currently, but I'm headed there this weekend.
Okay. So where are you today? Because I know
Southern
Friday.
Yeah.
What's that?
Last Friday I was in, where was I?
You were in Utah because I was there too.
Oh, yes. I'm in Southern California currently.
Okay. Just bouncing around.
And before I came to see you in Utah, I was in Austin that same week. So it's been a wild couple weeks.
Right. So you don't even know where you are.
No, I really for a moment didn't.
Right. You're like, "Oh, no, but where was I last week?" So, all right. So now we know that I'm me, you are you, and that you are somewhere around the globe. Happens to be in Southern California. I'm in the Atlanta area. So Sam's business is PBS Accounting and Tax Solutions, and you cover the full range of accounting, but not a CPA, not an EA. So touch on that. How did you end up getting into this business?
Sure. So I was in banking and I was helping my clients who needed loans, lines of credit, credit cards, equipment, things like that, financing, get me what I needed. And through that process, they had no idea what that looked like, what that meant. They weren't tracking their numbers, a lot of them, not every single one, of course. But so it happened that I just started volunteering. Do you want me to come in and help you get this to me? Can I come in and help you do this? And over a couple years of doing that consistently, before work, on weekends, days off, things like that, I just fell in love with it because I was really felt that I was helping people then. Because it not only got me what I needed to help them, but then they really started appreciating, like, oh my gosh, can you come back and do this again? Can you keep doing this? Can we pay you to keep doing this for us? And at first it turned into like a little side gig business. At first it was completely voluntary just to do my job better. Then it turned into, sure, I'll take on a couple little clients and make some extra money. Then it was just really like, this is much more what I'd rather be doing. So at that point, I put myself in every single class and every single webinar and every single everything I could get into and onto around learning more about actual bookkeeping rather than just knowing what I know. I was able to, and I know I knew what I knew through experience in corporate America and other jobs. And there's a long story around that, but I really wanted more specifics on bookkeeping, and that's what I did. And then everything just kind of went from there.
You've been doing this 25 years. Is that what it said? I think in your.
I have been an entrepreneur for 25 years. Yes.
Okay.
My corporate career started when I was 19. At the same time I started my corporate career, I started in direct sales. So I really have been an entrepreneur for that long, in one way or another, but I didn't start in finance and bookkeeping and accounting until 12, 13 years ago, if you take my slow roll into consideration.
Yeah. And so, all right. So let's talk about 12, 13 years ago. Where did you find resources for like bookkeeping? What was the go-to way to build that knowledge base?
So it was Intuit because they at that point offered their kind of, road show type trainings where they went to cities all over the United States and did full day to multi-day trainings. It was a training on their software, yes, but at the same time, I was learning bookkeeping and bookkeeping principles, and I was also in the room with bookkeepers and accountants and tax people who asked questions that I was then able to learn from. They knew what I didn't know, and I had dabbled enough in it in previous jobs and things that I could build from the knowledge that I had. But it really was Intuit offering those live classes. And that was way, way before, COVID was a thing and people were scared to go in person, or before they just stopped doing it altogether because they got used to not having, I guess, the expense of doing
Right.
that. So, I don't, now that we're all back in person, we still don't see those live trainings like we used to have. So I'm assuming it's an overhead thing. That's an assumption. I have no proof.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
I would tend to agree with you, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's cost a lot. Well, like we'll go ahead and talk about last week, what we did last week.
yeah,
So, we both happened to be invited to the Zoho Balance, where
yeah.
Zoho Corp, if you don't know Zoho, I just wrote an article about Zoho and a little bit about the experience that we had last week. There was about, what'd you say the head count was? 30, 35?
Yeah, it was under 40.
Yeah, so of us invited out to Zoho in well, actually it's not really their US headquarters, but it's where their I guess the guy that heads up the US, Val, I'll call him
Yeah.
Zal, Zoho Val. So Val
No, I
Steed
love it.
is
Yeah.
yeah, he's in that Salt Lake area, and so they had some of their key leaders there, as well as just people from around the community, the accounting community. We have used Zoho. We've used Zoho One for several years. It's primarily right now what we have on it, just as our survey for our top 100 program. But we've used it for a variety of things. It's a very cost effective and effective tool, but you had really had no, prior to that, had no exposure to Zoho, right?
I have had ever in my whole 10 years of running a firm, had two clients that had used Zoho. And I've also run into a few over time in conversation that said they use Zoho, but my experience has only been twice ever. And in both of those cases, they were looking to move away from Zoho. So I didn't really deep dive into the product. It was more just,
Yeah.
okay, what's next? How do we help you from here type things. But yeah, to say I was incredibly impressed is still an understatement. I was blown away. The generosity, the luxuriousness of
Right.
everything, the place they put us up in, how they treated us with open, welcoming arms. And yes, of course, they are trying to get us to understand their product, and they wouldn't, you wouldn't expect them to like take another direction, but just everything was so wonderful and so incredibly like strategically designed to be impressive. And just knowing their story, like I've told so many people just since
Mhm.
this weekend, their story is the most impactful part to me of understanding why this would be a good decision for any company to use them, because you really got to understand their philosophies and how they run their business, and that they're not just going kind of throwing spaghetti to the wall and hoping it sticks. They really and invest in their product, and they reinvest in their product. And the fact they've been profitable since day one, the fact that their high ups are not taking like these really insane high paychecks, they're reinvesting that money. And the whole thing was amazing.
Yeah. And reinvesting it in people, that was
And
certainly
people,
a big part of what they shared was in
yeah,
their whole education process and going into, second or third tier markets when they
yes,
do open a business or a new office in a city,
yep,
not targeting, Silicon Valley for many reasons.
for
Expense,
many
I'm
reasons.
sure
Yeah,
being
everything
one
was
of them, but
impressive. Yeah,
yeah,
everything
so
was
it
so impressive.
yeah, and certainly a tool worth looking at. A platform. I don't
Yeah,
want to call it a tool, it's a platform, right? Because it does have, I think now they said they're up to 55 apps that kind of come in that Zoho One
right.
suite.
And see,
So,
to me, that's where someone like me, I had no idea. I had no idea that that was their design. So now my head is spinning around, oh, what do I need that they might have a solve for? Because I would have never thought, let's look at Zoho, because I only knew Zoho books. That's all I
right.
thought they were. And then I did know they were a CRM. So other than those two
Mhm.
things, I had zero clue. So now that I know all this, I'm like, ooh, what can I solve?
Yeah.
What problem can I solve? And maybe
Yes.
Zoho has it.
Yeah, and when you go and look at it, I mean, again, we use it, and you went through your top 100 pro advisors the last couple of years, award winner last year, and you went through the process, and you went through that survey that is quite, painful,
Extensive. Yeah.
and that's all done. That's on Zoho Survey with very, very capable tool. So we're good. So
Yeah.
there's our Zoho shout out. And again, so it was basically a day and a half retreat in Utah just to learn more about the people, the product, and how they are going to market. I think now it is an interesting time. They've been in the market for a long time, but it's an interesting time because there's a lot going on at Intuit relative to accounting professionals, right?
Yep.
And some aren't necessarily real thrilled with some of the directions that they're seeing. So could be
Yeah.
good timing for them.
Yeah, I also loved though that it wasn't a sales pitch. There was no
Right.
sign up today and get your blah blah blah. There was none of that. It was genuinely, here's all of our information, here's what we
Mhm.
do. It was such a brilliant marketing angle. I really think it
Yes.
was.
Well, I hope they do it again, and I hope I get invited back, and I hope it's in
Same.
Utah. So we'll let Val know. All right, so let's talk about culture,
Mhm.
especially remote, because are you 100% remote, or do you have people
100%.
in? Okay, and you're outside of Bozeman, right?
Yeah, we're more in the Billings area.
Or Billings? Okay.
Um, yeah, so Bozeman's a couple hours, but yes, I mean, that area of Montana is where my home office resides currently. But we have employees, every single employee we have is in a different state. So
Yeah.
we have them all over the US and actually none in Montana,
Well,
ironically enough, other than me.
yeah. It's a long, long way to go have a coffee with an employee, right?
It is. And so that's one of the challenges with remote, especially when you are like me. Like that's the only part about corporate America that I miss was
Yeah.
or having an in-person job what is the like talking to people and
Yeah.
the water cooler talk they call it, or getting catch up on what you did that weekend or whatnot, or even just having somebody like go have a happy hour with right after work. You have people there in place for that. So that's a challenge with remote, but we try really hard to still have that team environment. And I can elaborate if you want me to, but I definitely have
Absolutely.
ways I do that.
Yeah, because we're in the same boat. I mean, and I personally have worked from home. Gosh, we started Insightful Accountant 2013. I was probably already working from home 3 or 4 years prior to that. So I've been
Mhm.
working from home for a very long time. And I would say over the last year and a half, I've really been trying to figure a way to get into an office environment. But, but then you have expense and you have other time
Yep.
and things like that. You're like, do I really want to go spend $1,400 to sit around a bunch of people I don't really know and don't really have a
Yeah.
business connection with? Probably not.
Right.
So there are other ways I have to figure out to do that. But we're 100% remote. So I'm in Atlanta. We have Murph is in Oklahoma. Bob is in Arizona. Amy, who works with us, is up in Connecticut. Christine is in Maine. We have 3 people in the Philippines. Well, there is one other guy that's here in Atlanta who works part-time for us. But culture is never anything that we have. Building culture, I would say, is not one of my strengths. And
Mm,
it's more, hey, just go do your job, right? And
yeah.
so we have been putting a little more effort into structured time as a team. And
Hmm.
but our problem is Bob, my business partner, is very similar to me in that we're both really more from a business development background. And most business development background type people worrying about company culture is not what we do, right? We just go out and try to make things happen and expect people to show up for work, expect people to do their job and to raise
Yeah.
their hand if they have questions. But so in a remote environment, how do you how do you drive that? How do you
Sure.
drive the personality of the firm and the culture of the firm?
Well, I've had to learn the very hard way that setting expectations is so important because like you just said, my first and foremost is I expect you to do the job you were hired to do. I expect you to want to excel at your job. I expect you to ask questions when you don't know. And I just think that should be like the natural way people do their job, but I have found the hard way that it's not. And people have, through the years really put me through the ringer as an employer by teaching me all the things I didn't know about being one. And one is you just have to be explicitly clear. This is what is expected. Do you understand? And then just kind of always go back to that expectation. But above and beyond that, I'm an open door. I'm an open door myself. I have an open door policy. I want you to come to me when there's a problem. I want you to tell me when I could do things better. I want you to tell me when you think the business could be doing a better job of X, Y, and Z. I don't want to have to be the problem solver. No, that's not what I should. I can't solve a problem that I don't know exists, right? So I really open and invite people to tell me when things aren't right in one way or another, whether it's communication, whether it's pricing, whether it's schedules, whatever it is, packages, services. I've had my employees have been really open and honest with me, and I think it's because I'm so open to it and they don't get in trouble for being honest. There are environments where when you speak up, you kind of get, like, oh, don't talk to her. She'll rat you out or, whatever it is. And I don't want that. And a lot of our culture is built specifically around me hating my experience in corporate America so much that I want to do everything I can to provide a different experience for employees. But some of the ways we do that is like every Monday we have a team meeting. Every Monday morning, and we have a team meeting. It's cameras on, not negotiable. I do say if you're just having a really crappy day, turn your camera off. It's fine, but be present in the meeting, right? Because some of us, you just have that morning where you're just like, I can't function.
Bad hair day, right?
Bad hair day.
You just can't do it.
Whatever it is, or you just can't hide that you're, not having a great day. And so turn the camera off, but be present in the meeting. And then I do things like if you're sick or if you're not feeling good, then shut it down and take the rest of the day off. Let me know what needs to be attended to, or let's delegate it. I try really hard to be cognizant of people's real lives because we're remote and because accounting is not something that has to be done right this second. Free schedule too. You have to go to the doctor, do it in the middle of the day. Just put yourself, out of office on the calendar so we all can see. Give us expectation management of when you might be back, that type of thing. But just go live your life. I don't care if you're going to the dog park. I don't care if you have a doctor's appointment. It's really none of my business. Just as long as the work gets done by when it's supposed to be done, right? So that helps a lot because that is a freedom you don't get as an employee. You cannot walk into your office building and be like, okay, I'm going to go take my dog out. I'll be back in 2 hours. That's not acceptable. So I make it acceptable to not feel like you have to squeeze your whole life into 2 days in the weekend. On Fridays, we have a check-in really quick. Whatever Monday's priorities were, did they get done? If not, what's the next action? Who's doing what? So I just have us together at least twice a week, cameras on. We take all federal holidays as a company, but then I also give you your birthday as a federal holiday off as well. So I kind of add that. It ends up being like 2 full weeks a year just in holidays alone of days off on top of PTO and sick time. So they really, in my opinion, have a pretty good time off ratio there.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
helps.
I bet if you add them up, it's probably 30 days, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if you're doing
'cause
federal
we offer
holidays.
Yes, it's federal is 12 or 13, and then the birthday makes it 14, and then they get a week of PTO, so that's another to 19 days there. And then there's, depending on what state you're in, 3 to 5 sick days a year. So yeah, it adds up to, 25 or so days a year off that you could take. That's not a ton, and some companies do way more, but it's not nothing either, especially for a small company like we are to have that kind of perk.
Right. Yeah. So do you know Debbie? She goes by Deborah, Debbie Kilsheimer.
I love her.
Yeah. So she was actually, we were in Utah back in May at the GrowCon conference,
Uh-huh.
and we hosted a podcast. We did a podcast, and she talked about her first job in accounting.
Uh-huh.
And she said literally she said it wasn't tax season, but the guy basically who she worked for was basically, he was a clock watcher. And she said two things that kind of that she brought us. One was I was super efficient. I'm good at what I do and I'm very efficient. And so we had this other guy, I can't remember his name, but call him Mark. Mark was terrible. Mark didn't know what he was doing. Mark took, twice as long to do anything, and she got
Right.
kind of dressed down because she was too efficient. And she's like, well,
Yep.
Mark's a better employee. It's like, he's not a better employee. He's terrible. He doesn't know what he's doing. And
Yep.
she's like, so that's strike one against the firm. Strike two, she had like literally completed all her work. It wasn't tax season, but she's like, I'm done. I'm done with my work. And she went to her boss and was like, hey, I'm done. And he's like, okay, well, can I go home? Well, no, it's not 5 o'clock yet. And she's like,
Mm.
oh, do you want me to sit here and watch cars drive by rather than go home,
Yeah.
rather than have quality of life, right?
Yeah, I had those
So there's
same type of experiences in corporate America too. Not from accounting, but just in general. And it's like one of the stupidest things ever. We actually pay based on the book of business so that you are never punished for being better and quicker and more efficient at your work, at your job. I've told all my team, if you can get your job done at 10 hours a week, go have fun. I know you can't, nobody could.
right,
But I'm
yeah,
just saying, if you're done and the things are done that were supposed to be done and the customer's happy, go enjoy,
mhm,
go have a life, go out with your kids, go take your dog somewhere, go out with your husband, whatever it is. Um, I don't want people to hate their job and wake up going, oh my God, I have to do this
uh,
again.
time to make the donuts. So what
Yeah.
about, all right, so then let's pivot that over to, so you can't just since you're all remote, you can't be
Mhm.
tracking that with paper. So
It's not
what
with
does
paper.
that technology look like that kind of supports that structure?
Yeah, so currently we're in Levy, and it's been one of the best transitions we've made
Mm,
internally because of the capacity tracking that's just organically built in. Before,
okay,
this has all been done in spreadsheets and exports and formulas and all the cross things you can do. But Levy just it tracks every penny of profitability and capacity for the clients and our team. So I absolutely have loved that because it's taken so much time off our plates to do it manually, but also just given us such real insights. For example, my senior accountant, she's been working not overtime like for in reality, but just so much more than she really should be for her role because of tax season. And she just kind of got thrown into like some last minute cleanup projects. And so I can see on her capacity right now that she's maxed and she's definitely going to go over where she should be for her compensation. So I told her, take Wednesday and Thursday off. You've done brilliant. You got the job done. I appreciate you putting in the time, even though you technically didn't even need to, because it was something that wasn't your problem to begin with, all of those things. So I just said, hey, just take the days off. It's not going to impact your your compensation, your paycheck, and I want you to be able to relax and enjoy the fruits of your labor,
yeah,
and
that's
not just
great. And
because it's Saturday or Sunday, right? Because those are
right,
givens, and we tend to spend our whole weekend doing all the things we can't get done during the week. So I wanted her to have real time to herself to do whatever she wanted. So that's how we do it is Levy. Every single workflow, every single task, every single anything is built into an automatic timer. And we're not tracking time for hours, we're tracking time more for capacity. So what you're
yeah,
saying is like that's how we see that. But also we know really how we're doing with the client compared to how we priced it and all of that on the back end.
right, okay. And what else is in the tech stack? What else do you guys
We
use?
use Slack internally because we just all love it so much and it's so organic to us now that it didn't make sense to change it. The tech stack Keeper is our behind the scenes quality control application. We're a QBO only company, so it also works perfectly with QBO, which makes everything easy, makes the whole world go round really in our
Right,
lives. And then we just, have email. We're really getting away more and more from email because it's so insane the amount of emails we all get in a day and they get buried. And threads get lost. And so we are really leaning on the customer portal that's in Keeper also. So it's like a dual solution. It's
Okay.
transactional and communication for us. And so we don't accept attachments by email. Everything goes in the portal. Clarifying questions go in the portal. That is really their one-stop shop for all things to do with us.
Okay. And since you have people everywhere, I assume you have clients everywhere?
We do on every single time zone you can imagine.
Great. Right. Well, that works with your jet setting around, so that's perfect.
It does. And that's
Um,
why, because I fly everywhere and then I pick up a client here, pick up a client there. And so now they're all over, which is not a bad problem to have, but it does make for long days when you start at like 6 a.m. and you don't get done till sometimes, in Hawaii, it's still, 5
right.
when it's already dinner time in California. So yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you end up picking up clients from, everywhere? What does that look like? I mean, are
So I
you
have
proactively looking in these other markets or are people finding you?
Well, they're starting to find me, which is kind of a cool new
Yeah.
thing. But it's always been me putting myself in the room, and that is almost the only marketing we do is me traveling to speaking engagements. We specialize in job costing and project management and
Okay.
QuickBooks Online. So I actually travel to industry conferences for contractors, construction, things like that, and speak as an educator there because that's my ideal audience. So I'm putting myself in the room with 50 to 100 of my new clients, right? Hopefully someday. And also feeding a pipeline. I mean, every single month we get reach outs from people who were in our classes 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago and are
Mm.
just now, the timing is right for them. So everything I do is both for immediate turnaround as well as, filling a pipeline. Our mailing list grows by a couple hundred every time we go do these things. So when we do have our own events, when we do have things we're doing for the public or even free resources to send out and deepen and strengthen our know, like, trust with these people, we have continuous touch points for them.
Okay. Anybody else in firm that's doing those talking, or it's just you? That's what you do.
Just me. That's really
Okay.
my that's my zone of genius, if we're going to say it that way, is
Yep.
going out, meeting the people, understanding the need, and then knowing how we can fulfill it, and then delegate, and then delegate, and then delegate, and
Gotcha.
repeat.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And so let's talk about I'm gonna read your financial literacy workshop. I had to read it just to make sure I got it right. Is that part of is that part of that overall process too? I mean, that's one of the many touch points.
Yes, it is. And so a couple years ago, I was really bothered by how many small businesses I've seen over the 10 years time who just either failed, were on the verge of failing, or were having such a hard time simply because they didn't know what they didn't know and no one was telling them. And then we get in and we start doing their books and I would see things and be like, you could benefit from this, or you should be taking this election, or have you seen this number? Did you know your payroll is not being done right? And none of them had clues. And so I just all of a sudden thought one day, because I can't sleep a lot at night, and I was up not sleeping one night, and I thought I should just create the thing that tells everybody this stuff because no one's
Yeah.
telling people. Long story short, I created an all-day workshop that touches every point of financial literacy for small business owners from start to finish and why your numbers really matter. It's not just for tax returns, it's for all this other stuff. And this is all the reasons why knowing your numbers can make you or break you. And so last year we launched it. We traveled to several cities around the country, and we're doing it again this year. Um, and it's in person because I think there's so much value in that. Plus, no one's going to sit and look at their computer for 8 hours. It's just it's impossible. It's also really hard to get business owners to commit to multiple day events because that interrupts 2 or 3 days instead of just one full day that you can plan ahead for. So yeah, we're doing that again this on the 18th of September
Where?
in Bozeman, Montana.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Book a flight.
It's so worth it. I did have a couple people come from Minnesota last year, and they were like, I can't believe this was so much information. They were so happy. They walked out of there. They made immediate changes in their business, and they've called me a couple times this year. Like, they're still thanking me because that one day transformed how they thought and did business.
Oh, that's fantastic. And is
Yeah.
it, do you see yourself taking it beyond like Bozeman into other markets on a
Yeah.
regular basis? I mean, because like, how many will you do this year?
We have 3 scheduled for this year. We had 6 last year, but we did find that our marketing is limited to where it takes a lot of upfront spend and power to market. And I'm sure you know all about those types of things that we didn't have yet. So I really wanted to go back to the drawing board and figure out how do we more effectively market this and get, more butts in the seats. The price too is designed around not being something a barrier of entry, because a small business doesn't have the money to pay a tax planner $10,000 to do this big financial plan for them. But for $250, I can give them 8 hours of knowledge they didn't have before they walked in the door, which at least gives them the ammunition to ask the right questions to get those answers from somebody who does that. So 3 this year. I'd love to go back to 6 next year. It's just this was a wild year for me, and speaking so many places, I just didn't really have the capacity to put the energy I needed to into that.
Right.
But I'm learning every time I do another one, another, way to do it better and reach more people. So that's great.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. There was something while you were talking about that I wanted to bring up, and it was about, I think I've lost it.
That's okay.
Um,
It'll come back to you.
yeah. Oh, actually, it was about those sessions. That's any business owner. It's not, even though you specialize more in cost accounting, right? Job
Right.
costing.
Yes,
Um,
correct.
what you're covering is appropriate for anybody in business.
Anybody in business, we cover entity selection, reasonable compensation, record keeping, strategic planning, long-term planning versus short-term planning, marketing to meet your numbers and reverse engineering, budgeting, you name it. We talk about everything that has to do with finances, period. So anybody who owns a business qualifies. And what's also awesome is if you're thinking about starting a business, getting all that information up front versus like years and years later when nobody's told you this whole time. It's really great for that too. We had 2 people last year that came that were just starting in the concept phase of their business and have both written us this year to say, I can't even believe how much easier this has been on me than everybody I know that I've talked to because I had your class. So, which is really
There you go.
very cool.
That's fantastic. All right. So what about, do you know Kim Fedor? Do you know her?
I do know
Okay.
Kim. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because she does a lot of work with like the SBDC, and I think they're
Mhm.
always looking for speakers, or I don't know if they're looking directly for speakers or people to partner with who can maybe
Right.
provide some content, some speaking time hours around that the work they do in the
Yeah.
SBDC. So,
Yep.
well, you
I
already
would
know her,
love
so I
that.
can't make a contact connection for you there. You already have it. Um, what about, I'm going to go all the way back to your job that you had before you were doing this, your banking job.
Sure. Hmm.
Um, do you have like a handful of preferred providers, if you will, that you refer people to, in banking,
Yep.
in legal, in whatever other
I
areas
sure
of
do.
business that they may need? Is that pretty common, you think, with people who do what you do?
I don't know if it's common, but I do know that I'm seeing and hearing it a lot lately as a way to do business, as a good business structure. You don't have
Mhm.
to know everything or do everything. You can still be the connector between the people you know and what your client needs. And that's kind of the strategy we've taken. For example, our name is PBS Accounting and Tax Solutions. However, we don't do taxes. We did at one point have an in-house tax preparer. It didn't work out. And I just decided I don't want one more thing on my plate.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to go learn one more thing. I didn't want to have one more thing pressuring me on a deadline, on a timeline. And I know what I do well. I wanted to stay doing that. So we partner with several CPAs and tax preparers that do a phenomenal job that we trust with our clients. And we know we're going to look out for them and do their tax planning and care about their business. That's how we can provide a tax solution, is by knowing the person who can do it if you don't have your own, or if you're ready to switch. 99% of the customers we get have their own tax person, but I would say 80% are ready to switch because they're just not happy. Something hasn't been done, a ball has been dropped, there's no
Yeah.
communication, there's been no tax planning, no strategy. And then we come along and we're like, did you know? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no one has ever said that to us before. Why? Why?
Yeah.
So we then have someone to introduce them to without having to do it ourselves. But yes, we have legal, we have investment, we have marketing people. At just about every place in your business you could need help, even business consultants and strategists. We've got somebody that we know.
Like banking, preferred banking.
I do know a couple bankers, but I really kind of stay away from that. The only thing I do put my opinion on is whether or not they have a terrible connection with QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
If it's
Yeah.
going to make my job harder and harder to deal with the bank that you're asking me about, I will say so. And I'll say that is not a great direction for long-term, relationship management with the accounting part of it. But other than that, I kind of stay out of banking. I do have a couple like lenders that I will lean into, but who
Yeah.
happen to work for banks, but it's more on the lending side.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, let's start landing the plane, if you will, around your what you're doing in, I can't remember how many months it is. It's about a year. Is that right?
Yes, it's 1 year from now. It's in September of 2026. I recently signed up with the Align Leadership Program, and their actual program is called Mountains and Marathons. And it's a leadership workshop and mentorship. So that's first and foremost. So they go through everything to teach you how to be the best leader you can be. Because I've gone to other mentorships, both industry, like accounting ones, and then business ones. This one's around leadership because it actually aligns with my goal in life, which is to be a little more supporting my personal goals as well as my business goals, because my whole life really revolves and centers around my business. I'm wanting to hopefully in the next chapter of my life have a little more balance there. So I joined the program, but the program ends with a week-long trek up to the base camp of Mount Everest. And I am a hiker. That's my happy place. I love being outdoors. I love being on a mountain. I love being outside. Um, so yeah, it really, everything about it was aligned, and Everest is like the mountain to climb. While I'm not going to summit it on purpose, I don't actually want to because I've seen too many
Yeah. Yeah.
documentaries where people die or go blind
Right.
or whatever. Base camp seems like a good enough challenge for me.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, that's a big challenge. And
Yeah,
that,
it's a big challenge.
and when is that trip?
I don't have the dates right in front of me, but September of 26.
Okay. So
It's
it
a
is a year.
10-day it's in a year. So I've given myself a year to train and really get my body back in shape. And
Yeah.
I hiked Mount Whitney in 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And so I haven't really hiked that much since then, as far as like getting ready for that type of a hike. So I've got some work to do there.
Yeah. And then the highest peaks where you are, what's the,
We are surrounded by 12,000 foot.
okay.
I mean, easily I could do 12,000 feet any given weekend, and everything in between, starting at about 5 to 12. If you go to the Sierras in southern or northern mid California, Central California, I go to the Sierras a couple times a year. They have the 14 footers, which is Mount Whitney is 14,505. So I actually was thinking I should do Whitney again as a training. This time it's not the goal, it's the training um, mountain. So yes, I do have some height, but nothing can get me to 17,900, which is what base camp sits at, because doesn't exist here.
That's well, good luck in that
Thank
training
you.
regimen. That's
You.
sounds
I'm
like
going to
a
document
trip
the
of a lifetime.
process.
Yeah.
It is. I'll document the process. So I have just started actually October 1st. We're taking our first client for a brand new bookkeeping company called Trail to Summit. And the whole idea is taking my passion around education, all the things I've learned over the last 10 years, and hiking, and kind of partnering how the two kind of align mentality wise for the small business once again. Because now my current company, PBS, is not for small businesses, it's really for more well established businesses. So I'm
Okay.
taking everything full circle back to Trail to Summit, and it'll be my little passion project combining both of my loves.
It's awesome. Do you know
Yeah.
how high is Mount Kilimanjaro? Do you know? Have any
I
idea?
do not know.
I
I
should
do
look
not
this
know.
up. Hold on, see if I can find out real quick. And the only reason I bring it
Yeah.
up is we have our Future Forward going this week, and Chris Meyer from Fanatical Software, that was his background, or one of his pictures that he
Oh,
showed was
nice.
he climbed Kilimanjaro somewhat recently. Oh, well, the the crown is 19,340.
That's big.
So that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very
That's
tall. I
2,000
didn't
feet higher
realize
than
that.
base camp. I think Everest, the top of it, the summit is 29,000. So I'm only going to 17. That tells you that's another 12,000
Right.
on top of
Yeah,
that to climb to summit. Yeah.
that's crazy town. I don't think I'll be doing that. We
Nope.
went with Boy Scouts out to New Mexico, and the big mountain out there on their ranch was called Mount Baldy. I think it was
Yeah.
maybe 12,300 or something like that.
Yeah.
So we
I've
did
done
do
Baldy.
that, but oh, have you? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's it. That's my peak. That's
Yeah. Baldy
being
and
there.
Ontario are right in that same area, Mount Ontario, and they're
Yeah.
they're both 10,000 plus. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. What did we miss? Did we miss anything in our conversation? I think we
I
covered
think,
Zoho Balance, we covered
yeah.
hiking, we covered
Yeah.
business, we covered corporate, small, um, dealing
I
with
can
remote.
remote, a couple things I can offer about remote. I do try like with our quarterly meetings. We have a quarterly
Mhm.
team meeting every quarter to go over goals missed and not missed. But I always try to like send them something so we're all doing the same activity at the same time. And last couple meetings, it's been charcuterie boards. So I ship charcuterie boards to their house. We could all be eating kind of like I can't throw them like a team lunch, but I can give us
Right.
all I've done Uber Eat vouchers before so they can buy whatever they want. I've done actual gift card things where they can go buy something. So I also try to do things like that. And this year, for the first time, we're trying to put together our annual planning meeting as a retreat almost. So I'm trying to bring all of us together in December to do our in-person planning. So it's just little things like that I try to keep
Absolutely.
that going.
That's great.
And when
And it costs less than an office, right?
Yeah, really. I did have an office and then COVID killed that because it became just a place for me to get out of the house because I couldn't actually have clients there anymore. And then after a while, I was like, what am I doing paying all this overhead for what? And I was a very early adopter of remote even before COVID, but I think it was more for your ego, like, oh, I have an office. But really, when you let go of that thing, it opens up your life to be so much more free. And so we've been remote a long, long time. But I also, anytime one of the team members does something outstanding or in particular, I call it out and make sure everybody gives them their congratulations. I'll send them gift cards like individually for a job well done. If they have a bad day or something, I'll send them flowers or just something to try to make them feel better as humans, not employees.
That's awesome. Well, we will wrap it up on that. Sam,
Okay,
thank you so much. It
thank
was good
you.
seeing you last week. Good seeing you again today. And I'm sure
Same.
we'll see you very soon. All right. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
thanks, Gary.
Are you an accounting or tax professional who wants to stay ahead without spending a dime? Join thousands who trust insightful accountant and tax practice news to keep them informed and empowered. Get expert updates on QuickBooks, Xero, tax planning strategies, and workflow tips delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're a solo bookkeeper, firm leader, or tax advisor, these newsletters are your shortcut to what's next in the profession. They're free, practical, and built for people like you. Visit insightfulaccountant.com and hit subscribe to start your smarter workflow today for free.